Let's go to our next guest, Trevor Kavanagh, former political editor of The Sun. Very good morning to you, Trevor.
Good morning, Julia.
Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Well, lots going on at home and abroad. Let's get straight to it. In particular, just your reaction to the Trump peace plan, the Israeli hostages coming home, exchange with prisoners held in Israel, and you know, Donald Trump basically hailing, you know, this is the start of, you know, peace in the Middle East. You've been following this stuff for a lot of years, and the West, Britain and other countries getting involved. How hopeful are you?
Well, about as hopeful as it's possible to be with a problem like the Middle East and the attempt by countries like Iran to wipe Israel off the face of the map. And I don't think that has gone away. It's just that they've had their noses rubbed in it a little, in some cases, in the case of Iran, quite violently, and especially Hamas and Hezbollah, who are their cat's paws. However, I do think that this is a chance because it's the rest of the Arab world that counts in this particular negotiation. And the Abraham Accords, for which Donald Trump got precious little credit in his first administration, have borne fruit. And all we need now is for Saudi Arabia to come publicly to the party. And we have a pretty well full house of Arab states who are sick to the back teeth of IS brutality and murder and slaughter, and the resulting poverty that's inflicted on the Gaza and the Palestinian area. I think there is a reason for hope here, and I think that I think that this will go down. It tastes bad in the mouths of those who detest Donald Trump, but this is a remarkable breakthrough that has to be given full credit to Donald Trump.
Well, indeed, I mean, the 20-point plan, a lot of it was, you know, what was on the table under Biden. But again, these require a sort of force of character and energy to actually get through, and banging of heads together. And I do think a lot of this comes down actually to what's changed since Israel did take out the nuclear threat, was Iran, and also that attack on Qatar. Everyone says, oh, it was a mistake. No, it wasn't. It was a reality check for the Qataris and others that Israel's reach was further than they had feared. But one of the things I think is extraordinary is actually Donald Trump yesterday. Yeah, there was a lot of crowing. He was doing his victory lap. It may be a little bit too soon, but he got the hostages out. Full stop. He got the live hostages out, and that was the number one thing for Israel at this moment. But it's absolutely amazing. Flying over on Air Force One, tending, you know, Knesset, going off to the peace summit and the signing in Egypt. He was on stage pretty much the entire time, speaking for a lot of hours. The energy levels, he's chatting to journalists on Air Force One on the way back to Washington. This is a man, you know, in his early 80s, for goodness sake.
Well, it's amazing. And I mean, he is known, believe it or not, as a workaholic. He's up in very, very early in the morning and he works late at night, unlike Joe Biden, who had an afternoon nap and he was in bed by 9 o'clock. Yeah. That dynamism is bearing fruit in all sorts of ways. I mean, we're full of admiration, I think, or we should be, for what's happening in Gaza and Israel. But there is more to Donald Trump than just this. I mean, the economy in America is booming. We're all benefiting from that. So, I mean, will he end up on Mount Rushmore as one of the presidential greats? Well, I think that he's probably got people carving out his statue already.
Probably has. And again, if this doesn't work out, the Nobel Peace Prize should be his. And again, if he was Obama, if he was Biden, he would have been a shoo-in and he'd got it. Obama got nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize before the first 6 weeks of his presidency, when he'd achieved absolutely zero, and arguably, with his failures on Syria, arguably caused more deaths as a result of US inaction than any government before him. Let's also talk about what happened with Keir Starmer in Egypt and Sharm El Sheikh. On the stage, all these world leaders turning up, and let's play a little clip because it's joy to watch, where Donald Trump sort of ushers Keir Starmer forward on the stage. Enjoy, everyone.
United Kingdom, where's United Kingdom? Where's our friend? Come here. Is everything going good?
Very good.
It's very nice that you're here. These people all came in like 20-minute notice. And I think it's fantastic. And we have so many others, and just so many others. And
you cannot help but smile every time you see that. I mean, our Prime Minister, he couldn't remember his name. Where's our friend? Couldn't remember his name. He's standing at the back, sort of, frankly, Trump had just been yapping on for quite a long time, as he did in the Israeli Knesset as well. And then he's called for it. He obviously thinks, oh God, I'm going to be asked to say a few words. And then he's just left standing and Trump just carries on. I mean, ritual humiliation. And isn't it terrible that we're actually enjoying it as opposed to being outraged that our Prime Minister was, humiliated in this way? But mainly because we know he despises all of us. He despises our country. So we don't care if he's humiliated.
Well, I think we despise him in return in bucket loads. And frankly, I don't think that was an accident by Donald Trump. He knew exactly where our Prime Minister was standing. He knew exactly what he was doing when he turned away from him, looking like a stray potato on a plate. I think that that was perfect. It was perfect time. And my estimation of Donald Trump rose almost as much on that as it did on the release of the prisoners from Gaza.
He knew exactly what he was doing. I mean, some of the things that Donald Trump was saying, I know everyone here, I love them all, but I don't love them all. There's ones I don't love. But, you won't have, I'll never tell you who the ones I don't like. Well, maybe you will find out. I mean, he was just riffing, having fun, enjoying his moment in the sun. But back home, there was also politics going on back here. And we had the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood. She was giving a statement to the House about, basically the abject failures that we have seen to stop the terrorist who killed two at a synagogue in Manchester a couple of weeks ago. And she did talk about these so-called pro-Palestinian protesters. And she said, some of them who've carried on protesting since peace in the Middle East, since the ceasefire deal, since the aid's gone in, there is no genocide, there's a ceasefire in place, the things they've been calling for. She says some of them don't want peace in the Middle East. Did you welcome those remarks?
Well, I think that you can't legislate against stupidity, can you? And I think that these marches, which have been an absolute abhorrence for the people of the capital city of London, every single Saturday almost throughout the last 2 years, should have been stopped at the outset. And they certainly should be stopped now that there's nothing left to protest over. As you said earlier, there's a whole shopping list of things that they want, but they've all been settled, at least for the moment. There is peace, there is a ceasefire, the prisoners have been released. Yep. And so what are they protesting about?
Yeah, I mean, it's really that simple, isn't it? And what do you make of the, we've got this sort of little Oxford University student, and now identified as Samuel Williams of the mean streets of Royal Tunbridge Wells, chanting Gaza, Gaza, make us proud, put the Zios in the ground. A clear call for Israelis, Jews, those like me who support the right of Israel. I am a proud Zionist to exist, to be killed. I mean, it's blatant. It's very, very blatant. What do you make of this going on our streets and the police just standing by, listening and watching and doing nothing?
Well, what the opposite of that is the fact that he's basically calling for the support for Hamas. This is what the ultimate result of what that protester is calling for is a triumph for Hamas in the slaughter of innocent Israelis. And it's almost impossible to imagine what is going through the minds of these people as they ignore or completely resolutely refuse to examine the evidence of what happened on October the 7th 2 years ago. Yeah. I mean, it was appalling. It makes your eyes water just reading it. And they've totally ignored that and are blaming the Israelis for defending themselves.
Yeah. And they're still claiming that, women weren't raped, weren't mutilated. I mean, it is just extraordinary the lies people will tell themselves, and every single one of them should be forced to sit down and watch the full unedited evidence of what actually happened. And by the way, we know it happened because it was filmed by Hamas and live streamed on Telegram and other social media formats. I mean, there is no doubt about this. It's extraordinary. Let's also talk about something I've got no doubt of, that we're not going to be able to actually reform the European Convention on Human Rights. British ministers say they've won the backing of more than a dozen countries, including, big players like Germany, to reform the European Convention on Human Rights, ECHR, basically looking for ways to curb illegal migration. More than 16 countries support our moves to change the way the courts interpret the convention, because, of course, it's being used again and again, ridiculous interpretations of the articles, particularly to privacy and a right to family life, to basically prevent them being deported. Do you have any hope whatsoever that these changes will take place, given the activist judges who are involved in these cases?
It ain't going to happen. And if it does, why should we applaud these countries for coming so belatedly to the conclusion that this is a deliberately corrupt system? And in any case, here in Britain, we could very easily remove those judges who are giving away the freedom to stay in this country to people who blatantly do not deserve it. And on any pretext whatsoever, they simply make something up about whether or not their kids like chicken nuggets or something equally
I know, we
stupid.
keep using that example because it is so absurd.
It is. And also the Albanian crime gangster who had a cannabis factory owner who has not been sent back to Albania because his daughter would not have a male role model. I mean, what sort of role model is that?
It is utterly ridiculous, isn't it? Well, look, these days, illegal migrants, and Boris Johnson has been giving his tuppence worth again. I mean, sorry, does this man want to come back, or is it just me? But he's basically saying that it was Rishi Sunak's fault for not putting the Rwanda policy into place, and that's why we've had this wave of illegal migrants. Don't blame him. He's also basically said, oh, we didn't expect so many people to come in the Boris wave. Those are the legal migrants, and one of the years under which he had responsibility for the visas that have been given out under his watch, where we had 1.2 million people arrive, some 900,000 net arrivals to this country under that wave, people who are here right now. And he's saying nothing to do with me, Gov. I mean, it's laughable, isn't it?
Well, I think that Boris Johnson is congenitally incapable of admitting that he's wrong, even when he's caught red-handed with his hands in the safe. I mean, look, you've got to remember that it was Boris Johnson who was arguing for
an amnesty.
Truce, an amnesty for those who'd already arrived, which would have meant not only that tens or hundreds of thousands who were here illegally would remain, but it would act as an even bigger magnet to all those who thought that the moment they set foot on these shores, they would simply remain. I mean, no, Boris is guilty as charged.
Absolutely. Trevor Kavanagh, former political editor of The Sun, thank you so much for joining us. Always great to get your very clear and concise analysis of these things. Tom Slater is also here, editor of Spiked Online. Just on Boris Johnson and the ECHR, illegal, that's illegal and legal migration. But again, Boris Johnson, I didn't do anything. I mean, Boris has never done anything. Again, I always say to him, in these situations, I'm not your mistress, I'm not your wife, I'm not fooling for this nonsense. No, he gets away. I remember saying to him once, you get away with lying to your wives, you don't get away to lying to voters, mate. It doesn't work. But it's just rubbish, isn't it? No,
and I think on the one hand, it's an inability of his to admit that he's done anything wrong. I mean, that's just a kind of psychological issue that he has. But his party is certainly on a very different stretch now. It's fascinating that all of the announcements that have been made over recent months are basically the Tory party committing itself to cleaning up the mess that it made over the course of the past 14 years. And to be frank, Boris Johnson is a huge part of that mess.
After promising the exact opposite. That's the key, isn't it? 11:49.